Curse of the Kichai Shaman. Chapter 26. Life continues. For several months, David was wrapped up in the court cases against the criminal members of the Order of Nergal. By January of 2024, all the cases had been settled. David had continued to work at the Washington on the Brazos historical site until it concluded in December the 8th of 2023. After that archaeological survey was done, Helene and he went on a vacation to Peru. In the past, they sponsored several exchange students from different countries. One of their exchange students, named Eduardo Gallardo, was from Peru. He had invited them to his wedding, and Helene and David went to Valparaiso and attended the wedding of Eduardo and Connie Gallardo. They went on a hike on the coast near Viña del Mar and walked along the beach before they attended the wedding. After the wedding, they explored Valparaiso, where David took pictures of the street art and mosaic street light poles. Then they got on a flight to Hangarau in Rapa Nui, which is also called Easter Island, and home to many moai statues. David documented all the different hibiscus flower varieties that he found. He also documented the rock foundations of traditional Rapa Nui homes and took pictures of a home that had been recreated. It felt good to be carefree and not worried that people were trying to kill him. Helene and David had a good time on their vacation, but Helene really missed Bear, who was with the renters of the guest house. David had to be back to testify against Tyler Walsh, the man that pointed a gun at him and tried to pull the trigger on January 8th, but after that, all the cases had been settled. David felt like his life was suddenly free from worry and dread. He returned to work at United Environmental Solutions and was sent back to Oklahoma and had to start Monday, January 15th. The Oklahoma Department of Transportation was widening the next stretch of Highway 281 in Caddo County near Anadarko, and he was again assigned as an archaeologist on this dig, only this time he was the lead archaeologist for the United Environmental Solutions team. They would still be under the direction of the Oklahoma Department of Transportation archaeologists. Again, David checked into the Castle Inn and Suites in Anadarko and would be there a month. Cindy Velez was also there, along with two new archaeologists named Susan Sanchez and Mark Lismuth. They started doing the same thing that David did the last time they started working on a Highway 281. They were tasked with digging test holes every 10 meters, geolocating each hole and screening the dirt that came out and then logging any artifacts they found. David found his passion again for finding artifacts. They had to do test holes for 2 miles, which was 321 holes. They had about 30 minutes to dig each test hole to stay on schedule, and the 4 of them had to dig 64 holes in a day. They stayed on schedule and finished the holes by the end of the day on Friday, the January 19th. By Monday, January 22nd, they were laying out units in the areas identified by their test hole survey. David was the one who assigned units to the archaeologists of United Environmental Solutions. In the first unit David was digging in, he found 3 shards of pottery. This excited David. After all he had been through, he had not lost his passion for archaeology. Again, they had a canopy set up with tables and laptops to log in the finds on. They still kept paper notes, but all finds were logged into a database on the computer at the end of each day. At the end of the day on Monday, the 22nd of January, David got in his truck and drove back to Anadarko. David no longer purged his truck by running the air conditioner. He was no longer paranoid about people trying to get him. He stopped at the familiar Conoco station and got himself some Body Armor sports drinks and a couple of pre-made sandwiches. He looked at the bulletin board and noticed that there were no longer any missing person flyers. This gave him a good feeling knowing he had stopped the Order of Nergal that was kidnapping young women. David went back to his room at the Castle Inn and Suites. He called Helene and they talked for a while, then he went to bed early. He had not had any realistic dreams in several months. The thought of this got him thinking about Nikustaka, the last Kichai shaman, and how he had come into his dreams to warn him about danger. He went to sleep that night hoping he would dream about him, but in the morning he woke without having any dreams. The next morning he told the archaeologists under him to continue digging in the units they had started the day before. Again, on this day, David uncovered shards of pottery, and then towards the end of the day he uncovered an unbroken pot with a seal intact. He had uncovered about half of it by the end of the workday. This time he felt good about it. There were no feelings of dread. The next day, he uncovered human bones near the pot. He alerted the Oklahoma Department of Transportation archaeologists and turned the unit over to them. He then moved to a nearby unit. An archaeologist named Laura Crocker took over exhuming the skeleton. David watched her as she worked. Then, in the new unit he was in, he found human bones. It was another skeleton. By Friday, he had found 2 more skeletons. It was eerily similar to what had happened back in September, but this time he felt good about it. After work on that Friday, he did not make the 6.5-hour drive back to his home in Austin. He stayed in Anadarko. Saturday morning, he went to the Williams Food grocery store and got 2 bags of groceries, 2 cartons of Marlboro cigarettes, and $200 in cash from the automatic teller machine. David then made his way out to Nikustaka's house. He pulled up in his truck and got out, bringing the groceries with him. David knocked on the front door and Michael Riwiru answered. David asked him if Nick was home. Michael told him that his father had passed away September the 22nd. David was stunned. He said to Michael, "But he came to me in my dreams after that date. I wanted to know if I'm still being affected by a curse." Michael said, "Yes, he is powerful in the dream world now. He often visits me in my dreams." David said, "I brought some groceries, cigarettes, and money. Here, you can have it all." Michael invited David into his house and took the items David had brought and said, "Thank you." David and Michael sat in Nick's house and talked about him for about 2 hours. Michael, who had the gift of sight, told David that his aura was bright white and pure. He said that it was a good sign that he was free from evil influences. He said he had quit drinking and was now the local shaman, having taken over his father's role. David left feeling really positive. He was sad that Nick had passed, but found solace in the fact that Nick's traditions would live on through his son. David completed the job at Highway 281 on February 2nd. That Friday evening, he drove the 6.5 hours to Austin and got home a little before midnight. Helene was in bed, and Bear was in his kennel with the door open. Bear was so well trained that they did not need to close the door on his kennel. The next morning, Saturday, February 3rd, Helene was up early and had cooked a breakfast of eggs, bacon, oatmeal, and toast. David woke up and was surprised. Usually on the weekends, they cooked breakfast together. Helene said to David, "We have to talk. I got a job offer that starts in 6 months. My company has been asked to be a partner in the refurbishing of the Nuova Serezzano geothermal power plant. It is a 2-year project, and we would have to relocate during that time. I really want to take this job. There's time for you to apply for a working visa, and you could get employment as an archaeologist in that area." David asked, "Where is this exactly?" Helene said, "It is in Tuscany, Italy, just south of Pisa.